Hello, everybody. On top of that, I had the enable waiting room, which I disabled. I just noticed somebody still needed to be let in, so I'm not sure what's up with that, but welcome everybody. Yeah, I have to tell you, I apologize for the delay. Jeff and I tested this three times about an hour ago. And all of a sudden the link is not cooperating. So anyways, let's get going here and be sensitive to everybody's time. Just a quick little intro. So AlphaEquity tries to do these events with resource partners on the order of at least quarterly. Sometimes it can be even once a month. And so Jeff Chaney with Castanet has been so kind as to give this presentation today. And one of the things that we always try to preserve within the AlphaEquity community is if a resource partner is introduced, it should be through a CEO, an owner, a founder, or an investor in a company that already has experience with them. And so in this case, it was John Penrose. John, thank you so much for introducing Jeff to me. I've actually been using some of these tools for the past, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks. So I know even for my own process, it's been pretty exciting and, a real time saver. So with that, let me sort of turn it over to you, Jeff, and you can take it away.
All right, thank you all very much. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you joining us. I've been trying to send out the updated link while you're talking here, Kevin. So let me transition over and get my PowerPoint set up.
While you're doing that, Jeff, I'm logging into Prospect Maximizer as we speak. I've got to launch a new campaign, so very excited to hear your pitch, but I'm already a believer, obviously.
Well, I appreciate that plug, John. I really do. And, we're going to go through a lot of fundamentals today, practical things that anybody can do on their own to optimize their LinkedIn profile and start and launch a LinkedIn initiative to identify prospects and connect with them and build genuine relationships. I'll give you a quick intro. Myself, Jeff Chaney. I'm one of the partners at Castanet. Castanet is a lead generation technology platform. We acquired this a couple of years ago and have been overhauling and continuing to refine the technology and evolve the technology as the industry changes. LinkedIn, which is the platform that we leverage to do our prospecting on, is a constantly changing platform. And so we are kind of always trying to stay one step ahead of everybody else and continue to refine those strategies. And that's really my job. Even though I am also a partner at Relentless Venture Studios, we have 13 different SaaS technology platforms that we own and operate. My primary role is to oversee Castanet and develop new strategies into technology and assist with our strategic partnerships around the world. Currently, we have clients in 19 different countries. We have over 1,500 different agency partners that work with us. And we've generated over 2.75 million appointments on behalf of our clients over the past couple of years. A little bit more about me real quick. I'm also a founding partner or employee of SMS Masterminds, which was a direct to small business loyalty and customer engagement system. And that technology I helped refine over the course of about 7 years before we sold that company, with just over 10 million users on our platform and over 6,000 merchants around the country. So that's kind of my background. It's really been a passion of working with business owners, entrepreneurs, small, medium-sized organizations, and developing automation and lead generation technology systems. So let's kind of do a brief overview of what we're going to cover today. So why is LinkedIn underutilized, and why is that a good thing for you? And I'll explain what that means in a little bit more detail in a second. And then how to optimize your LinkedIn profile and why that's really actually one of the most important things I'm going to cover today is the optimization of your LinkedIn profile, and how to cultivate your sphere of influence on LinkedIn, how to grow your network with the right prospects, and then also how to leverage technology and automation tools to be able to scale an initiative and do it long term. All right, so let's talk about the problem. So 90% of professionals that I've spoken with, and this is an industry standard term, research backs it to show that 90% of professionals say that they underutilize LinkedIn. So why would that be? LinkedIn has over 800 million business-to-business individuals on their platform. So why would people underutilize it if it's such a powerful tool? Well, what it comes down to is effort. Time is money. And if you've got to put in effort into something every day, oftentimes networking and relationship building take a backseat to your primary focus. You know, networking to do it effectively really requires consistency. It doesn't do any good to walk into a Chamber of Commerce mixer or a BNI networking group, hand out a bunch of business cards and take a bunch with you, and then never follow up with those people again. You know, networking is a commitment to relationship building, and it requires consistency and follow-up. Forget my phone's blowing up on the side. Then lastly, no ability to scale an outreach effort. If you are a professional trying to connect with ideal prospects and implement a plan on engaging with them and cultivating a relationship and ultimately trying to get that prospect to get with you on the phone, have an opportunity to make a pitch or whatever your outcome or goal might be, if you turn that off, if you stop doing it, everything else stops. So networking requires consistency, and if you want to do that while still maintaining your sanity, you need to find a way to be able to scale that outreach. So another thing about LinkedIn, so why LinkedIn over Facebook or Instagram in the business world? Well, specifically because LinkedIn is a network of professionals. This is a B2B network, so it definitely has a different context. When you engage with somebody on other social platforms, there is no permission to do business. There is no intention to do business. There is nobody wants to get pitched in those environments. But with LinkedIn, we actually are there to do business together. Now, obviously, there's an art to it, and there's a technique to doing it effectively and respectfully. But at the end of the day, this is a place to do business. So prospects ultimately, in order to do business, have to know, like, and trust you. That's the goal here. If you're going to launch an initiative, the goal should be to get them to know who you are, to actually appreciate you, and ultimately trust you in order to get to the point where we're doing business together. So what does that look like? As I mentioned, consistency is key to success. You got to find your prospects one by one. You got to invite them to connect with you. With LinkedIn, you cannot engage effectively and with any economy of scale without first inviting them to connect with you and having them accept it. Now, there's some ways around that. You can send in-mails and things of that nature, but what I'm talking about is developing that one-on-one conversation. You have to get them to accept your invitation first. And then you have to engage with them repeatedly over time and deliver value. And that's one of the things that most people fail at. And I mean most as in like literally everybody fails at doing that effectively over time. So let's transition now into profile optimization and talk a little bit about why this is so important. I'm actually going to exit my PowerPoint here, and I'm going to take you to my page. So here we are on my LinkedIn profile. At a glance, it just looks kind of complete, right? One of the things that I see over and over again when interacting with new clients of mine, when we're developing lead generation strategies via LinkedIn and our Castanet technology, I always start here. I always evaluate their profile, because most people don't know that LinkedIn will actually throttle your ability to do certain actions on LinkedIn based on the completeness of your profile. Essentially, it uses your profile to assess your credibility. It has essentially like an internal credit score. And the better it can validate and verify that you are an authentic human being, the more it will let you do, the more invites it'll let you send, the more messages you can send, the more engaging you can be before the artificial intelligence that they have in place goes, hey, we want to just verify that you're actually a real person. So let me give you an example of this. I was working with a real estate agent out of the Las Vegas market, and we were identifying a list of prospects that she wanted to connect with. I ran a search, a Boolean search technique, and I'll get into that in a second, and identified 650 ideal prospects for her and said, okay, I want you to reproduce this exact same search that I just did. She ran that exact same search with the same filters. Her results showed 11 results. I had over 600 results. We did the same thing, but her profile was restricted because she was still relatively new to LinkedIn. She did not have a header image in her profile. She had not updated or added an About Me section. And there was just some other little holes in her profile. It was just incomplete is what it comes down to. So step one, if there's anything you take away from this call today, if you haven't completed your LinkedIn profile, that would be just a fundamental thing I recommend to everybody. One of the things that I have available to you, and what I will bring up here on the PowerPoint again in just a second, is my profile optimization cheat sheet. You can use this as a guide to basically walk through all the fundamentals and figure out, just dial your profile in very quickly. Shouldn't take more than maybe 15 to 20 minutes to get it up optimized. But I am going to point out a couple things that I really find are incredibly important. One, your profile. Your profile should absolutely be of you. It should not be an avatar. It should not be a cartoon. It should not be a photo from 300 yards away of you skiing down the side of a slope. It should be of you, so that if somebody were to pass you in the hallway, they would recognize your face. So think of it in that context. Header images, I really like to do something local. It's that what's in the header image is not as important as just having one, because that's another one of those little check boxes that LinkedIn likes to see. But then also contact information. This is something that most people totally forget about. You set up your LinkedIn profile 10 years ago, and you haven't updated your contact information since then. So go to your profile, you'll find it on LinkedIn. You can just click the little drop-down arrow up here, click View Profile, and then click on your contact info. Here, you can edit any of this content by just clicking on the little pencil icon, but this is where you want to add in your phone number, website address, and things of that nature. You do have permissions. You can go into your settings and set the permissions on who's available or who's able to view this data. So if you don't want it publicly accessible, you can actually set those settings, but you can make it so that only those who are connected with you, for example, can view it. Okay, I'm not going to belabor this point much more. I think you get that your LinkedIn profile has to be complete in order to begin or implement a LinkedIn outreach strategy. You will get flagged by LinkedIn. They will send you a nice little notification that says, hey, we noticed some unusual behavior on your profile and you're connecting with more people and sending more messages, and we just want to verify that you're a real person. And they'll lock you out of your account until you go through a couple of steps to verify your identity. They're doing that because they don't believe you're real, because your profile lacks credibility. So check that out. Also something to note, you don't see it here, but there will oftentimes be a setup status bar across your profile page showing you basically your profile completeness. And mine is done, so it doesn't show up here anymore. But if you go to your profile and you notice some suggestions on what LinkedIn thinks you should do, get those done. Those are the things that it wants to see. All right, so let's go back to the presentation here. And we talked about all of these items. So header image, headline, position, about you. You can add other elements like license and certification, things that just help bolster your credibility. But then of course, endorsements and recommendations. These are things you can't do, but you can absolutely encourage some of your contacts and anybody you're connected to either write recommendations for you or to provide endorsements. These lend third-party credibility to your profile, which LinkedIn loves to see. If you want to download my cheat sheet, you can scan that QR code, or Kevin, we can make sure and get that to everybody at the end of the call. All right, now let's talk about advanced search techniques. So advanced search techniques, and what I'm going to show you is a couple of methods that you can use to isolate your ideal prospects on LinkedIn. Most people are unaware of some of the advanced filters, and even if you do use them, I'm going to show you a couple of things that you may be unaware of. But first, let me just mention, there's two primary strategies of how to leverage LinkedIn search. You can isolate audiences of ideal prospects, individuals that you would want to connect to and build a relationship with. But I want to encourage you to also remember your existing network. You may have spent 10 years connecting with CEOs and industry professionals and people that you would want to stay in touch with. Let me ask you this. When was the last time you reached out to everyone in your existing network and said, how's business? How can I help you? What's new in your world? You know, or provided them a link to your blog post, or shared a video that you found to be useful, or an article. You know, I can almost guarantee most of us on today's call have never done that, not to our entire network. So I'm going to show you how we can make that happen. So again, popping back into LinkedIn here, if we were to, from our homepage, just click here in the search bar, and after you click, just hit the enter key. That's the quickest way to get to all of the LinkedIn search filters. And these search filters, you can essentially work left to right and isolate your ideal audience. It all starts with, on LinkedIn, you can only connect and have conversations with people. So you wouldn't use your business profile or your business page to prospect. You would use your personal profile. So first, we're going to isolate people, and that gives us over 800 million results. Then for scenario number one, we're going to say, show me how to connect with, I'm going to show you how to connect with all of your existing network. Click on first degree connections. And here you are. These are the 3,400 people that I am already connected with. Now, depending on the goal of what it is I'm trying to achieve, am I trying to schedule appointments with individuals? Am I trying to sell a product or bring awareness to something? And if that's the case, then I probably wouldn't want to go through the effort of reaching out and engaging with all 3,400. I know that Ed here lives up in Canada, and maybe that's not where I sell my product, or I've got people connected with me that are from industries not relevant to my campaign. So this is where we can add some more filters and really start to isolate our existing network down to a very high concentrate group of people. So by just adding the filter for the metro area of Austin, Texas, where I live now, I've already narrowed my list down to 419. Notice the goal here is to get your prospecting list as small as possible. This kind of goes in the face of a lot of outreach strategies of like, hey, get the biggest list you can and just throw everything at it. With LinkedIn, it's entirely different. We want to develop campaigns that are highly targeted, laser focused on very specific audiences, so that one, you limit the amount of time you have to invest in outreach, and two, you're never engaging with or prospecting to people who aren't prepared to engage or buy from you, whatever the goal is. So this is how you would narrow down your list to a market. You can also, let's say we didn't want to do by market, we could do by industry. We could go to all filters, scroll down here, choose the industry that we want to engage with, show results. And here I've got 564 individuals that are in the marketing and advertising industry. So this gives me, again, a very highly targeted list of prospects. But maybe you want to go one step further and specifically talk to owners or CEOs. And this is where I'm going to show you a technique that most people don't know about. Step one, you can choose to go all the way down to title and put in one title, so owner or CEO, and run 2 different searches if you want. Or up here in the search bar, you can type the word owner and then capital OR. This is called a Boolean search technique. And now what we've done is we've told LinkedIn, search for people in marketing or advertising that are already connected with me who have the title of owner or CEO. And now look what we've got. A highly, highly concentrated list of individuals that meet a very specific criteria. This is how you LinkedIn effectively, getting your list as small as possible so you're not wasting your time and energy speaking to the wrong people. So that's technique number 1 if you want to engage with your existing network. Technique number 2 is very similar, but we're going to do it for second and third degree connections. And then again, this really comes down to what is your strategy? What are you trying to accomplish here? Are we going after people in your local area or in the US or in Canada? You know, location is the first way to kind of isolate an audience. Isolating an audience to a region, I always recommend as much as possible, mainly because you can use that in your copy, in your outreach, you know where they live and what industry they're in and so on. So it makes it very effective. So what we do is we apply a couple of filters again, and I'm going to show you one technique. And I actually did this very specifically for a client of mine in Austin, Texas, who owns an insurance company. He owns an insurance company downtown Austin, Texas, and he wanted to engage with employees of all of the downtown businesses who are every day driving past his storefront. So let's come up with a plan on who we're going to target first. So this is what we did. People, second and third connections, Austin, Texas. And first we went with Meta. Meta is Facebook. Facebook has a building right downtown on 3rd Street. So here it is. We've got a list of 1,600 human beings who live in Austin, Texas, who work at Facebook right downtown. This was his first hit list. This is how he started his prospecting to engage with people. And you know, his messaging was so individualized. He was able to reach out to them with a very specific call to action. Hey, we're 2 blocks from the Facebook building. I'd love to invite you by to have coffee, or can I buy you lunch, or can we meet face-to-face to discuss some insurance options and your needs? So he was able to connect with them, engage with them, follow up, and all the time apply very specific language in his copy that resonated with his audience. So this is just another technique, but that Boolean technique is very important. You can do Boolean techniques with the word and, so capital A-N-D. So if you wanted to search for VPs and presidents, you could apply that in the search up here. There's also or, capital O-R, and there's also not. So you can apply N-O-T. So you can search for CEO not owner, and it will filter out owner and only show CEO. So these are some techniques that are just incredibly powerful. Most people don't know they exist. Common question I normally get at the end of the call is, Jeff, what about Sales Navigator? Would you recommend using it? Should I pay for it? That's a paid service of LinkedIn. That is one of the things that Sales Navigator does better than anything, is provide you with advanced search filtering, which I love. And so if you need advanced search filtering and even this doesn't help you get what you're looking for, then Sales Navigator is a great solution. All right, out of respect for time. Kevin, how am I doing on time?
It's 12:34.
All right, great. So here's what I recommend. Develop a plan. Who is your ideal audience? What market are they in? What is the goal? And what is your call to action? if you can define these 4 steps for yourself, then you're taking a big step forward on developing a engagement strategy for LinkedIn. So, and a goal, again, the goal is to get your list as small as possible. So be as specific as possible and use this criteria as part of how you do that. So it's one thing to search for people in a particular industry. It's another to search for a person with a certain title in that industry, and another when you apply it to a particular region. That's going to be how you can get that list very, very small. I'm going to run through, I actually kind of already touched on these campaign scenarios. We've got a realtor out of Las Vegas wanted to engage an audience of 681 local employees who worked at Tesla. So his goal was to book one-on-one meetings with them. He applied the search filters that we just talked about to isolate those employees that worked at Tesla. And then we implemented an outreach strategy that included the consistency we talked about at the beginning. So day 1, he would view their profile, invite them to connect, and then a few days later, introduce himself and give some context, endorse them for a skill. That's something that works like a LinkedIn nudge. It's kind of like a LinkedIn kudos and puts him back on their radar. Then, approximately a week after that, he would send them some resources about the local real estate market. And then after all of this has taken place, he would reach out and invite them to a one-on-one meeting or a phone call. And this is part of a 1-month drip campaign strategy that he had to target a very specific audience. We also applied the exact same strategy to his existing network of 3,000 locals. This is where we actually isolated everybody outside of the Las Vegas area and just focused on the regional people to develop a plan to keep him engaged. And it looked like this. This is a 1-year engagement strategy where once a month, he engaged everybody in his existing network with value. Resource message, professional referral, link to a blog post. He just would engage them. Hey, how are you doing these days? Anything I can help you with? Eventually, by month 5, he would ask for a referral. If you know anybody who in the real estate industry or know anybody looking to buy or sell, love to be a resource for them. So he's doing what literally no other real estate agent is doing. He's actually being proactive and reaching out and engaging his existing network, which definitely makes him stand out. Okay, so all this being said, I want to talk a little bit about technology and how you can apply it to automate some of the heavy lifting involved in this process. I know that LinkedIn, to do it right, just like any form of networking, requires effort and consistency and time. And that's what most of you really don't have much of to give, apart from everything else you're working on. So you can leverage technology to automate the parts of this strategy that are time consuming and labor intensive, but most importantly, also repetitive. So either hire somebody to do it on your behalf, or leverage a platform like we've developed called Castanet to automate these components for you. Basically, what you'll do is isolate who you want to go after, use technology to handle the connections, the introductions, and the follow-up to the point where a conversation gets started. Once somebody responds, you as the human need to intercept that response and take over from there. This way, you're taking a prospect list of 1,000, and on average, within 30 to 45 days using a platform like ours, you're going to get approximately a 20% response rate to those who accept your invitations. And this means that you're going to have a couple dozen conversations generated out of that list within the first few weeks. And that'll continue to increase, and more people will connect with you and then follow up on your messages as you continue to drip out and engage them with a variety of different strategies over time. But at the end of the day, what you want to be doing is having more conversations with the right people who are ready to talk to you, and less time prospecting and cold calling and cold outreach. All right, so let me talk a little bit about how our automation technology works. And I'll run through this relatively quickly because I'm happy to meet with anybody one-on-one if you want to learn more about it. Essentially, Castanet works like a virtual assistant for your LinkedIn profile, but it works with your LinkedIn profile. It will import your targeted audiences. You define who you want it to engage with. We import that list. It will view profiles, send invites, send pre-configured messaging with time delays in between. It will automatically stop if a response is detected and place that into the inbox for you to follow up on. It'll also endorse them for a skill and follow profiles if you choose to have it do that. So all of these things happening in the background on your behalf all the time. It's important to point out that regardless of whether you use an automation tool or you do something like this on your own, either way, LinkedIn will be monitoring your behavior and want to make sure that you're staying within the parameters allowable for their profiles. And that's approximately 100 invitations a week is normal. So Castanet, a tool like ours, is actually going to throttle how much it does every day and make sure it keeps your profile within the safe zone. And it's just going to trickle out and do these actions a little bit on your behalf every day with consistency, just as if you were doing it, but obviously freeing up your time to focus on more important things. We do have an integration which allows you to be able to take a lead from LinkedIn. Say somebody responds and says, "Hey, perfect timing. I'd love to meet with you. How's next week sound?" Well, if you got that kind of response, that's a lead, you know, and you want to be able to get that conversation out of LinkedIn, out of Castanet, and into an environment that you can control. So we developed a Zapier integration that'll connect to virtually any CRM tool. So if you've got HubSpot or Salesforce or ActiveCampaign, whatever it might be, you can click this button after you've set up the integration, send to CRM, and it will automatically send that lead directly to your CRM tool, along with any contact information we have available on that profile, including phone number, email address, and website, and things of that nature. You can also export your prospecting list to a Google Sheet, and you can do this by filtering with those who have already engaged and connected with you, or you can export the entire list of all of your contacts that you've imported. So this gives you the ability to actually manage them in a sheet and filter and maybe divvy them up between sales reps for follow-up with phone calls and emails. You can, of course, automatically share resources and articles and videos, invite clients to book appointments with you. This is probably one of the most common call to actions, is just including a Calendly link in a message. I did this for a campaign that we were targeting doctors across the country. Actually, we had 1,800 very specific doctors we were engaging. And we spoke to their major pain problems, the things that they were dealing with as a direct primary care clinic, and offered to schedule a one-on-one appointment with them. And after some momentum and after the system got running, it was averaging 8 to 12 appointments were getting scheduled without any human interaction, just the doctors actually clicking the calendar link and booking an appointment. So it can be very, very effective. I'll touch on the cost here and happy to answer questions about any of this, but I did just want to share the details. We have, I wanted to give everybody on the call something very unique. One, we offer a 7-day free trial to anyone who wants to try it out. If a LinkedIn strategy is right for you and you know that your ideal prospects are on LinkedIn, then it would probably be advisable to jump on a call with me and talk about how to set up a strategy for you. The other thing is that if you've already got a network of LinkedIn professionals that you know you could benefit from cultivating, then that's another reason why you may want to consider setting up a 7-day trial and trying it out. We do work with you on creating the sequence, the campaign, the structure, and making sure that your message is optimized. So we'll get with you one-on-one and develop that plan. But something that I'm doing that's unique is I have an online masterclass that I'm offering to anybody on today's call. If you're part of the AlphaEquity participation here, the masterclass will be yours free to take. It's normally a $249 value that I offer. And then, of course, our integrations into the CRM are totally free. We don't charge for anything other than access to the technology. You get unlimited campaigns, unlimited sequences, and so on. We don't nickel and dime. We don't charge per lead. If you pay for the year in advance, it's $159 per month. If you pay for a month-to-month basis, which you're free to do either one, it runs $199 a month. We have agency plans for multi-seat. So if you run an organization that has, say, 5 sales reps, you can set up a plan where all 5 sales reps have their own Castanet account connected to their own LinkedIn profile and an automation campaign running on their behalf. Just helps ensure that they're doing some of the things they should be doing anyway, just automatically. Lastly, I'm all about value, guys. Like I said, I'm happy to meet with anybody one-on-one, but one of the things that I give out that really does help define the plan is our campaign worksheet. Basically everything we just talked about today. If you want to do this on your own and implement this, you're free to have it, and I'll even give you some guidance. But if you scan the QR code, you'll get access to the campaign worksheet, and it'll just walk you through everything that we talked about. You know, who's your audience? What market are they in? What's the goal? What's the call to action? And a variety of other components here. So please feel free to take advantage of that. And I think we could possibly also add a couple of links to the chat. But Kevin, why don't I hand it back over to you and see if you want to comment on any of this or bring me up to speed on any questions that have come in.
Yeah, I noticed there were a couple questions in the chat, but we're such a small group. Why don't you feel free to take yourself off of mute and ask any questions you may have. As far as you could certainly put a link in the chat, Jeff, if you feel it's appropriate, and if you think the scan me thing does the job, you know, that's fine too. Before we conclude, I will just add my email address to the chat. So if anybody wants to follow up and get in touch with me, or for that matter, you, Jeff, you know, they've got that.
Great. That's perfect. I will add a couple of links here. And yeah, if anybody wants to take themselves off mute and ask any questions, happy to.
Hey, Jeff, this is Jojo. Thank you for today. And Kevin, thanks for hosting this. I jumped on a little late because the link wasn't working, but the question is, do you need a pro account in LinkedIn? I don't have a pro account.
That is a great question. The short answer is no. You don't have to have a pro account. You can use any LinkedIn profile, but there are advantages to pro accounts. Pro accounts, well, let me put it this way. When you give LinkedIn money, they let you do more. And they like it when people pay them. So your profile will have slightly higher permissions, and they don't tell you what those are. They're not published anywhere, but premium accounts do tend to have more flexibility. Now, that being said, I don't have a paid account, and just my profile is well optimized. I have a long history on LinkedIn. I engage with many people. I've never had an issue, and I use Castanet every single day.
Thank you very much. That was a great answer. Thank you.
Absolutely. I just put a link in the chat with the link to my calendar. So if anybody does want to do one-on-one or talk about how we could possibly set something up for you, happy to meet with you. Let me see here. I also have another link I'm going to share.
Jeffrey, a few questions. Thanks for that. The endorsing skills piece, it seems kind of bizarre to endorse someone's skills if you've maybe just connected with them and you don't know them. Like, what's the theory behind that? How do you make it genuine versus it just being obvious that you're kind of playing the game? And then secondly, I'm seeing a lot more of this kind of robotic kind of drip fed type campaign and messages coming towards me, and it's quite easy to kind of tell when someone's kind of going through that process. How do you make it feel more natural than obvious that they've kind of set up one of these automated processes?
Great questions. And I'm sorry, the first question, let me make sure I get that one first, was
endorsing someone's skills and making it genuine when you actually don't know them.
Yeah. So one of the things about the endorsement functionality is it's giving an endorsement to somebody. And so you, after connecting with them, will get prompted. LinkedIn will prompt you and say, would you endorse Jeff Chaney for marketing? And you can click a button that says, yep, I do that. And I get a notification that says, Kevin just endorsed you for marketing, and give him kudos and say thank you. Now that is kind of like a professional gesture, and it's oftentimes something that, you're not only getting endorsements from somebody that you've actively worked with. It's a little bit, it's less than a recommendation, like a written testimonial, and it's more of a courtesy. Now, what I will tell you is, obviously it could come across disingenuous if somebody was really paying close attention, like, wait a second, who is this person? How do they know me? Have I worked with them before in the past? But for a lot of us, it's like, maybe they were part of a webinar. Maybe it's a customer. Maybe it's a customer of a customer. We don't necessarily know where it came from, but we know that we're connected with them and they just endorsed us for a skill. But what's most important is that notification that LinkedIn sends to the recipient, because that's what puts you back on the radar. Say you sent an invitation, they accepted it. Then 5 days later, you sent them a quick context like, hey, here's why I reached out to you. I'd love to chat. They didn't respond. A week later, you sent a follow-up. Following up on my last message, just wanted to see if you had an opportunity to jump on a call with me. They still haven't responded. Well, before you send another message, the endorsement for a skill is another way of getting on their radar that kind of makes them go, who's this? And once they log into LinkedIn, if they click your link or the suggested link that LinkedIn provides, it is a prompt to basically say thank you, and it puts them right into the messaging queue. So they see the previous messages that you've sent. It's really effective. Actually, I see a number of responses occur after the endorsement happens. So it's an effective strategy. Lastly, coming across genuine, so incredibly important. And I'll be the first to tell you guys, there are a number of automation technology platforms out there that truly are designed purposely to abuse the LinkedIn network. And that's just not what we do. That's not the way we're designed. Our system is one of the few that don't boast how it can get around the security systems of LinkedIn. We're not trying to do that. We're trying to essentially help you create some efficiencies in a genuine one-on-one relationship and connection with your prospects. And so getting your list as small as possible is the #1 strategy. That's how you can make sure that everything you're saying is resonating with a group, even though it's designed to feel as though you're speaking directly to them and it's as individualized as possible. The only way to do that is to make sure that all of the people in that audience have kind of the same commonalities. So targeting only CEOs versus any employee, for example. If you're targeting any employee, you're going to be speaking to the janitor, the CEO, the sales reps, the VPs, everybody in between. And one message can't resonate with all of them. So I would rather you run 5 highly individualized campaigns simultaneously than one generic. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thanks.
Lynn
Jeff,
Turner, I know you had a couple questions during the the presentation through chat. Did they get answered, or did you want to follow up?
Yeah, I mean, a couple did, but you had certain days like, introduce yourself after day 5. And then also like in the discovery, that it's best to have it after other touch points. So I'm trying to understand the data and the science behind some of it, if there's particular wait times, if you will.
Well, it depends on the goal. The short answer is yes, there are different strategies, and we do have data that we've used and analyzed to determine, kind of the best and most optimal strategy based on different goals. So for example, if your goal is to connect with somebody and schedule an appointment, my recommendation is that you have 6 to 8 touch points over the course of the first 30 days. And those are going to range from obviously we have to start with invite to connect, because we can't do anything until that's triggered, until that invite is accepted. Then we want to give context and basically be very direct. It's not the time to sell your product. And one of the traps that a lot of people fall into when trying to set up automation is to pitch via their outreach. And that is just a fundamental mistake. We don't want to get into a whole lot of sales. It's more about, do you have 15 minutes to jump on a quick call? Because that's what's going to get the conversation started. Even if it's just a very benign question about whether or not they're still working at a particular company. That's a question I've used before. Bless you, Jojo. I've used that question before when targeting automotive dealers, general used car managers at auto dealers who notoriously change jobs every 3 to 5 years. We would actually, the first message we ask is, hey, do you still work at, Leith Honda? And they reply with, nope, I'm now at thus and such. Well, now we got the conversation started. At that point, my automation stops. We did our job. The goal was to get the right person connected with you and get a conversation started so that you can intercept and take over from there. So sometimes the techniques, the messaging itself is less about your product and more about methods in which to get them to respond. The timing of things just really comes down to how aggressive you want to be and what the goal of the campaign is. That's why I mentioned the realtor example of the network cultivation. He's got 3,000 people that he wants to stay in touch with. Well, that's just a once a month thing. Once a month, he just has a touch point with them. And that's it. And he just does that repeatedly throughout the year, almost never, ever asking for the sale, never asking for anything, just being a resource in the local community.
And it's all done through LinkedIn. You're not jumping on email or doing things through campaigns, that type of thing.
That's correct. So everything runs, the Castanet platform actually lays over top of your LinkedIn profile and behaves as if it was you. And so everything is going through the direct message, the DMs within LinkedIn. And then ultimately, once an engagement has been triggered, my recommendation is get that conversation out of LinkedIn as quickly as possible. Once you know they're the right person who's responded to you, my response to them is, great, I've got your phone number as 805-902-2211. Can I reach you tomorrow? Because I just want to get straight to that and less about the back and forth LinkedIn.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just say that we used what was called Prospect Maximizer. Jeff, I think you're rebranding under Castanet, but fundamentally the power of the tool is that it automates the prospect. So once you've done a very focused list search, and then you've developed a thoughtful sequence. And Gareth, my sequences do not include an endorsement because I feel it's just not, I'm not comfortable doing that. I may try that on one of my upcoming campaigns and see if that has the kind of impact that Jeff's talking about. I suspect it probably does. It just does strike me as being a little bit disingenuous. But it's a capability that LinkedIn has, so Prospect Maximizer makes it available to you. But the great thing is that because this is drip, I can manage it. And so once I've launched a campaign against a targeted lease, a campaign against a sequence, then kind of every morning I can go in and check, and lo and behold, I've got a set of people that have taken the bait, so to speak, and at that point, then my goal is to get them off of LinkedIn as quickly as possible, and into a Zoom or phone conversation, and all. So that's really nice. The messaging capability through LinkedIn is pretty kludgy, and so the capability that Castanet offers is much easier to manage. So, I'm a fan of it. That said, I discontinued the use of it for a period of time, largely because we achieved our objectives for that period of time, which was to develop a set of channel partners. And so we accomplished that. We discontinued the use of the tool for a period of time. Now we've got a product out in the marketplace, and we're starting it again, and really excited about it. So, full-throated endorsement for the capability.
Thanks, John. I appreciate that. And I didn't mention this, but one of the things, John, that we added to the platform after you came on board is our sequence templates. So we actually do pre-configure and pre-develop a structure, Lynn. I think this kind of speaks to your question, for a goal-oriented campaign. So the 4 sequences that we have pre-configured are all goal-oriented: networking, appointment setting, so on and so forth. So those give you a framework to build off of with some pre-written copy, but I always encourage everybody to make it their own, and more importantly, adjust the copy to speak directly to whoever your audience are.
Well, we're up on the hour, everyone. I'm so sorry again that we got the late start. If you have follow-up questions, by all means, please reach out. One of the questions that came in via the chat was, will there be a video replay available? And the answer to that is yes, and it'll be through the AlphaEquity community. I pasted that link in there as well if you want to, check that out. You've also got Jeffrey's Calendly if you want to book a quick call and, have a little follow-up. My endorsement, it's only about 3 weeks old that I've been using Castanet, but I'm really quite happy with how it's consolidated also my view of, who I owe a reply to on LinkedIn, which is terrible in LinkedIn itself. Like if I clicked on the message, unless I kind of keep it lit up as an unanswered thing, it goes away. Just very kludgy. And I'm a Sales Navigator user as well. It's got its own set of challenges. So one of the things I really appreciated was having sort of an inbox of people that, have sent me a note that I owe a message back to, like all in one kind of viewpoint. And I could go on, of course.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, everybody, for being here today and giving me the opportunity to present to you. It's I've been doing this for many, many years, and LinkedIn is a ever evolving platform. And so my strategies change over time based on, what we're allowed to do and how we're allowed to do it. And we try to stay one step ahead and roll those strategies out to all of you. So happy to work with you, happy to help. Even if you're not using our service, that's not a priority, or that's not a prerequisite. Just happy to meet, talk strategy, help you any way I can.
Thanks a lot,
All right.
Kevin. Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you,
Thank you.
everyone. Have a great
Fabulous.
rest of your day.
Nice to meet you all. Bye-bye.
You too, Jojo. Bye-bye.